Hey there, it's Kurt Nilsen with Sunrise Mortgage Group here in Oregon City, Oregon. This is part 5 in a series of mini classes that I'm doing covering all the steps in the home buying process. Over a number of weeks, I'm going to be going step by step and walk you through the home buying process from A to Z. My goal is to cover the top things that you need to know and questions that we mortgage brokers and my realtor friends get asked every day about the home buying process. If you haven't watched the first 4 parts, I encourage you to do so. You can just scroll down on this page and find them there. So in our first 4 segments of the Smart Oregon Homebuyer series, we talked about getting qualified for a loan the moment you decide to buy a home, even if you're 6 to 18 months out. Part 2 covered getting pre-approved when you're actually ready to start going to look at houses. In Part 3, I showed you why you need and how to find a great real estate broker. Part 4 discussed making an offer on a home once you've found it. And today in Part 5, I'm going to talk to you about what happens now that your offer is accepted as we start to move towards the closing date when you actually get your keys. So now that you have your offer accepted and you and the seller have agreed on price, it's time to get hopping and move on with the home inspections and the home appraisal. By now, your real estate broker has given a copy of your purchase agreement to your mortgage person, also known as your lender, and your lender has likely contacted you to get some updated pay stubs or bank statements from you so they can get rolling on the home loan part. Always do your best to get your lender things in a timely manner. If you don't, it can delay your closing date. It's also time to write a check for the earnest money deposit that we talked about in Part 4. And this will be deposited with the escrow or title company that you'll be signing the final papers with, and the earnest money will be held until closing, where it will be credited to your down payment or closing costs. The home inspection and appraisal are often confusing to home buyers. They're actually 2 separate inspections with 2 separate costs. The home inspections are done first to check out the condition of the home and the home systems, and the appraisal is where an independent rep from the bank comes out to determine the value of the home for the bank you're borrowing from and to protect you as well, meaning they're making sure that the home is worth what you're paying for it. In your purchase agreement, you'll typically be given 5 to 10 days, sometimes a little bit more, to complete all your inspections. So time is of the essence, and it's important to get those scheduled as soon as possible. The home inspections are, for the most part, not required, but they're highly encouraged. These home inspections are going to be at your expense, but they're well worth it. The type of home inspections you may choose to get will depend on the house that you're buying, but it's always recommended to get a general home inspection. More on that in a minute. Different homes have different inspection needs. In cities or towns or, more suburban or urban areas, you're usually going to be on a public water system and a public sewer. Common inspections in these areas include your regular home inspection. Again, we'll talk more about that in a second. Possibly a sewer scope inspection. This is where they run a camera into the sewer line to look for defects. And possibly a radon test. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas that can leak into homes through cracks in the foundation. In more rural areas, wells and septic system inspections are more common. Bottom line is, ask your real estate broker what inspections they suggest based on the home you're buying, and they'll advise you on what you should consider as far as the inspections are concerned. Let's focus on the main home inspection because these are the most common. A home inspection usually runs $350 to $400. It could run a little bit more than that if there are outbuildings or if the home is particularly large. Your real estate broker can recommend a home inspector, or you can choose your own. It's completely up to you who you use for your home inspection. Your home inspector will normally spend 2 to 3 hours, sometimes more, going through the house with a fine-tooth comb top to bottom. They'll typically look at everything from the foundation to the roof. They check for dry rot problems, plumbing issues, electrical problems, and just about anything else you can think of. Again, this is money that is very well spent. As a general rule, if your home inspector finds any major issues that the seller won't fix, you can typically walk away from the transaction. There are time frames that need to be adhered to, and I'm not a real estate broker, so be sure you talk to your real estate broker about those details. The inspector may find some little things that may need your attention eventually, but you are basically going to be concerned about the big, expensive issues. Keep in mind, all houses have little things, so try not to be too nitpicky, but it's not uncommon to ask the seller to fix a few things like dry rot or an electrical issue. So let's move on to the appraisal now. We want to do all your home inspections first before we order the home appraisal, because we don't want you paying for your appraisal until you're satisfied with the condition of the home. In Oregon and in the main counties within 100 miles of Portland, appraisal fees start at $550 to $600, and they can go up from there. Add-on fees are common for larger homes, homes with acreage, unique homes, homes that are very rural, or if you need a rush appraisal done. Most appraisals will run between $550 and $800 though. Ask your lender and they'll let you know how much your appraisal will cost now that we know the details of your home. You'll typically put the cost of the appraisal on a debit card with your lender, and the lender will order the appraisal. After the appraisal is ordered, the appraiser will go out to the house to do his or her inspection. They'll take photographs, measurements. The appraiser's job is essentially to determine the value of the home for the bank and for you. Again, the appraisers are not home inspectors, and they're really just looking for glaring problems like a bad roof, dry rot, wires hanging out, etc. If they do notice something, they will typically indicate a concern in the appraisal, and that will usually require an additional inspection, as the lender doesn't want to lend on a home that has issues right out of the gate. Now, please note that if an appraiser does make a note of a problem, they'll usually need to go back out and reinspect after the problem is corrected, and that reinspection fee is about $150. This is pretty important. Keep in mind that home inspections, possible repair negotiations, and appraisal timeframes are a big factor in determining whether or not you'll close your transaction on the date specified in your purchase agreement. So please keep an open mind and remember that there are a lot of different people and a lot of different industries involved in a real estate transaction, and many things beyond anyone's control that can add more time. So it's extremely important to understand that up front, that the closing date that was specified in your purchase agreement is a target and is not set in stone, so it's important to be flexible. Try not to worry though. You have experienced professionals on your side, and we'll keep you informed every step of the way. And very soon you'll be moving into that beautiful new home of yours. So that's it for our home inspection and appraisal segment of the Smart Oregon Homebuyer Workshop series. The home inspection and appraisal part of the process is a major step towards completing your transaction. Listen to your real estate broker's advice on which home inspections you need. Don't nitpick the home inspection. Be quick when your lender asks you for paperwork, and understand that it is possible that your transaction may not close on the exact date specified in your purchase agreement. By understanding these things and managing your expectations regarding time frames, you'll have a much more pleasant home buying experience. Thanks a lot for tuning in.